garden of shadows. Hi my angels, it's Hailey, Reese, and today's video is one that I am super excited to be making, but also on the same token, saddened for the reasoning behind it. For those of you who have been on my channel for a while, you guys know that I absolutely adore Ed and Lorraine Warren. I've really enjoyed diving into and digging through all of the different paranormal cases that they've investigated in particular, and I am heartbroken to either let you know or to talk about with you the passing of Lorraine Warren. This means that now both Ed and Lorraine Warren have passed on, and I'm so disappointed and saddened by this news, not only because they've left such a massive mark in the paranormal community, but also because I was really hoping that one day I would get to meet Lorraine Warren and that I'd be able to hear her stories directly from her, and now that is just simply not doable, which sucks. But I'm very happy that both Ed and Lorraine Warren are reunited on the other side, and so in light of that, today I figured I would dive into the lives of Ed and Lorraine Warren and not the specific cases this time around. You guys know how much I love to dive into all the different Ed and Lorraine Warren cases, and I only have a couple left to do, one of which I'm doing this week. But for today's video, I figured rather than going into an Ed and Lorraine Warren case, we would talk about how Ed and Lorraine Warren became Ed and Lorraine Warren, and it's really actually quite fascinating, so I'm really excited to share that with you guys today. So without further ado, let's dive into the real lives of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and please don't take a shot every time I say their names because you will die. So Lorraine Warren was actually born January 31st, 1927 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So her birthday was a day after mine, which I find really fascinating, and I'm interested to look into all of the things behind her birth date, all of the astrology surrounding it, but that was when she was born. Ed Warren was born on September 7th, 1926 in Bridgeport, Connecticut as well. Both Ed and Lorraine Warren identified with Catholicism. They are both Catholic, and many people found the Warrens to be insane for believing in the devil and believing in demons, but nonetheless they stood by that particular fact that there is a devil and there are demons among us. Ed and Lorraine Warren actually met in their mid-teens. Ed was an usher at a theater that Lorraine Warren would go to with her mother every Wednesday, and eventually they striked up a conversation. They became friends until one night he walked her home and asked her on a date, which ever since then, the rest was kind of history. I should note that they were 16 at the time, so they started dating at the age of 16, and Lorraine Warren later confirmed that she psychically knew the minute she laid eyes on him that that was who she was going to marry, which I just think is so cute. Now, even more interesting, Ed Warren actually grew up in a haunted house himself between the ages of 5 to 12, and the house was actually in Connecticut. He would go to bed, and around 3 a.m. he would wake up to seeing his closet doors appearing to open up. And initially he would look into the closet and really wouldn't see much, but eventually this ball of light, he described kind of like a basketball of light, would form, and within it he would see the face. Now, it was the face of a woman, and she wasn't happy whatsoever, and he would continuously see her accompanied with the sounds of footsteps and heavy breathing. And actually, even more interesting, I keep saying the word interesting, but this is interesting, is even Ed's skeptical father would claim that there was a logical explanation behind the things that were going on in their home, but he could never provide one. So Ed really felt there was no other explanation to this other than his house was haunted, and that's kind of where his interest in the paranormal peaked. Or I shouldn't say peaked. That's kind of where it began, was growing up in that haunted house. Now, Ed Warren actually went into the Army on his 17th birthday, but 4 months after, his ship sank in the North Atlantic, and while he was home on his 30-day survivor leave, him and Lorraine would marry. Ed would return from World War II, and Ed and Lorraine Warren would have their first and only child, a little girl named Judy Warren, who would later go on to have 4 kids of her own. So they only had 1 daughter, but they wound up having 4 grandchildren. During this time, Ed was attending an art school because he's a very, very, very talented artist, and it was during that time as well that he kind of began feeling discouraged and frustrated because he felt as though he was just as good as those that were teaching him, and they were just teaching him like geometric things and things that he didn't need in order to be the best painter. So he decided to get a car and begin painting paintings to sell to people. Now, Ed and Lorraine Warren began making great money off of these paintings. They were wildly successful, and they were able to sell these paintings for a few dollars each, which back then, when you put into perspective the value of $1, they'd made quite a living for themselves. Now, this is how their paranormal adventures really began, because ever since Ed had grown up in that haunted house, he'd had a passion for haunted locations and haunted homes and haunted buildings. So anytime he would hear about some place that was deemed haunted, he would drag Lorraine to these places. Now, how they got into these houses is particularly innovative, and I really think it's so funny. But basically, Ed would go to the center of the road in front of these homes that were deemed haunted, where the owners of the homes could see him, and he would begin sketching and painting these homes very well, but he would put like ghosts coming out of them. And then when he would complete the painting or the sketch, he would send Lorraine, who was very charming, up to the door with this painting, and she would gift them the painting, so that her husband had a real love of sketching and painting haunted homes, and that was their way of getting into the homes, but also speaking directly with the homeowner. Essentially, Ed had a passion for seeking out people who had experienced things similar to what he'd experienced in his childhood. So Ed was a self-taught, self-proclaimed demonologist, and Lorraine actually had the gift of clairvoyancy. She was clairvoyant, which meant that Lorraine was able to communicate with spirits via her mind. She was able to hear them via her mind, and she was able to see them via her mind. Ed didn't have this gift, but together they were really this dream duo of somebody who was incredibly passionate about these hauntings and somebody who had a gift to see and communicate. Something that's fascinating as well is that they wouldn't just rely on Lorraine being clairvoyant. More often than not, they would actually bring 3 or 4 clairvoyants to the same space and bring them into the space individually to really gauge and see if they all have a similar experience. For an example, if they would have came to my haunted house and all 4 of them would have went in and said that in the basement laundry room there was a male, you would know that they were on the right track and that this place truly was indeed haunted, and then they would continue their investigation. When you think of Ed and Lorraine Warren, you think of 2 of them, but they really built a paranormal team around them as well. They would capture so many phenomenal paranormal activity on camera and on audio, and they would even win a court case. They'd be able to prove to the court of law that a woman and her child were driven out of a home by a spirit. Which is so wild to me to think that in the court of law, Ed and Lorraine Warren presented a convincing enough case of a haunting that they won the case. In 1952, Ed and Lorraine Warren founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, and they opened the Warren Occult Museum, which you guys are definitely familiar with if you see my videos, because that is where the lovely Annabelle is housed. Now, 1965 was where the Warrens really had a switch up of their mission. Initially, they were going into these haunted spaces and investigating them and really seeing all that is the paranormal. However, in 1965, they went into a home that had the spirit of a little girl named Cynthia who was trapped. And they really felt like they needed to do so much more than just investigate these spaces. They needed to go in and help people and help these spirits cross on and exercise spaces and just really do their best to either help spirits cross on or to rid families of hauntings in their homes. Now, around this time, a lot of people speculated that the Warrens were doing everything they did for financial gain. However, the Warrens claimed that they never actually charged anybody for their services. All that was required was compensation and that their expenses be covered. So if I wanted Ed and Lorraine Warren to come to Toronto, Canada, I would have to compensate them for that, like maybe food expenses or travel expenses, but they never actually charged for their services once there. Something that I really found interesting is when Ed was asked about all the attention he seemingly loved to receive around the cases that he would do, he responded with, and I quote, "You're damn right I do. My whole thought is expose the devil and expose evil. A skeptical public is the best protection evil has, and I'm going to make sure I expose that evil any way I can." And that just gives me chills because it is so true. Evil preys on skepticism, evil preys on lack of belief. So I do stand behind that message. As you guys know, the Warrens would go on to investigate some of the most popular and famous hauntings in the whole entire world, such as, but not limited to, Amityville Horror, Haunting in Connecticut, Demon Murder Trial, the Perron family haunting. There was just so many that they were the first to investigate, if not the only to investigate. They became best-selling authors of paranormal books. As you guys know, there were many, many movies that were created out of their particular investigations, and it was said that in their time, they investigated 10,000 haunted spaces. Now, sadly, Ed Warren passed away on August 23rd, 2006 due to complications from a stroke. And Lorraine Warren just recently passed away on April 18th, 2019 in her sleep. Ed Warren passed away at the age of 79 and Lorraine Warren passed away at the age of 92. So she definitely lived a long life. Now, one of the biggest questions that I've been receiving from you guys ever since the knowledge of Lorraine Warren's passing has been brought to light is what's going to happen to the Occult Museum, and more specifically, what's going to happen to Annabelle. I'm speculating here, I haven't seen this confirmed, but to the best of my knowledge, I believe it will be left to their daughter, but also particularly their son-in-law, Tony, who's been helping them for the past decades and working alongside them. Actually, Lorraine Warren passed on the Occult Museum to him as far as the workload before she passed as well. So he's definitely very involved in the Occult Museum, and I'm assuming it will be left to him and their daughter. Now, I know that Ed and Lorraine Warren have been products of so much skepticism, and there's a lot of people that believe that everything that they did was do or done for monetary gain. But regardless, the Warrens put so much light into the paranormal world. They brought so much light into the paranormal world, and they opened a lot of people's eyes to the paranormal, and for that, they will forever have a beautiful mark in the paranormal community. I know, as somebody who loves the paranormal, their cases are some of the cases that really got me more and more into investigating all of the different hauntings across the world, and I'm so deeply saddened to know that I will never get to pick the brain of Lorraine Warren. Pick the brain of Lorraine. Well, you guys, that's it for today's video. I thought that you guys might enjoy kind of an overview of how they got where they got, and not just the cases, but who they are as people and their story and journey together. That's obviously just scraping the surface. Lorraine Warren lived 92 years, and a lot of things happened in 92 years, but that is essentially how they met, when they met, and how they got into this world of the paranormal, and how they became the Ed and Lorraine Warren that many of us loved so dearly. That is it for today's video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you drop your comments down below and let me know what your thoughts are on Ed and Lorraine Warren and the life that they lived, or the lives that they lived. If you guys are new to my channel, please make sure you go ahead and click the subscribe button. I post a ton of videos. Actually, I'm posting 5 a week on 2 channels. So that's 10 videos a week. So make sure you're subscribed to my vlog channel, and make sure you're subscribed here so that you don't miss out on those 5 videos a week. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you guys.